At Skokie School District 73.5, we respectfully acknowledge that we are on the lands of the Sioux, Ho-Chunk, and Winnebago, Miami, Potawatomi, Peoria, and Kickapoo nations. These nations were forcefully removed from their traditional territories, and these lands continue to carry the stories of these nations in their struggles for survival and identity.
Is a public institution committed to building a foundation for learning, leadership, and life, and education. Our students to be critical thinkers who want to make the world a better place. So we have a particular obligation to recognize these peoples of these lands and the histories of dispossession upon which our schools rest.
As educators, we recognize that being silent, we are complicit in the ongoing oppression of Indigenous peoples, and we take this first step in fulfilling our responsibility to critically look at colonial histories and their present-day implications as we pay respect to the keepers of the land and the land itself.
Thank you so much for coming and doing that. We really appreciate it. Okay, so for all of those who are able and willing, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Is now time for public comment. So if you are here to make a public comment, you are welcome to go to the podium and just please introduce yourself before you make your public comment. All right, well, don't forget, you can make a public comment at the end of the meeting as well. I do have one comment. It is to sing happy birthday to Dr. Hightower. So if you'll all join me in a rousing rendition of Happy Birthday.
Thank you so much. That was extremely kind. Thank you.
I know, right? That way you're sure people will come to it if you have it during a meeting. Correspondence. I don't think we have any. Do we have any correspondence? No, no correspondence. Item F, FOIA requests. Do we have any FOIA requests, Dr. Hightower? Okay, moving on to staff recognition. Does the board have any staff recognition they would like to make?
I've got a laundry.
So first I want to say a special staff recognition to Mrs. Marrier, Mrs. Bond, and I believe it's Mrs. Alvarado. Am I correct? No, who's the third person? Anderson. I knew it was an A. Mrs. Anderson for all of their work with the musical. It was my first musical, and it was a wonderfully delightful experience. It was so well done. The kids worked so hard. It was such a great night. I didn't know what to expect. My son was in it. I had no idea what I was walking into. They did such a great job. So I think I wanted to shout out to them. I also wanted to spend a shout out to Principal Tamaru and Vice Principal Lorenas. You guys did an amazing job communicating with us the entire time from the, should we go to White Pines? What do you think about White Pines? We're going to White Pines. White Pines is going to be awesome, to we had to make the hard decision to cancel White Pines. And I know that that was a hard decision to make. But I really appreciate the timeliness of the communication. You take into consideration of all of our kids and families and the work you put into it. It was appreciated. And to kind of back in that, I also want to just shout out the 5th grade teachers. The 3 days that the kids didn't spend at White Pines, I heard nothing but amazing things. I don't really feel like they missed anything because you guys did such a great job making it a magical experience. So I know sometimes hard decisions have to be made, but I really appreciate how well you guys did with that. And if no one says thank you, I'll say thank you. I also want to send a shout out to Dan Schwartz. I heard you're Mr. Improv. A lot of the kids are talking about how well you did improv. And I want to say that you touched a lot of students, and they got to see you in a lot of different lights. So I want to say thank you for that. And I know we're in the final stretch, people. You're all doing great work. Let's get to the end and have some great restful summers.
I was going to thank Miss Mary and the entire music team too, because it was like the first time we all gathered, and especially if you have a first grader, which I do, it was an amazing experience. So thank you to all the staff that made it happen. I saw Vice Principal Lorenas there at the front giving out masks. I was really impressed the way in which you immediately could pivot the same day when we sent out notice about the masks. So thank you. And I also want to congratulate Meyer and Middleton and the parents of the children whose art was chosen. I was reading the newspaper on Sunday and with my son, and he said, this is a Meyer student that was chosen. And I said, no, he must be confused. And I was really pleased to see that. So congrats to you all, and also to all of our amazing arts teachers that make it possible. Thank you.
Just to build on kind of Ashley's comment about with the masking, and I want to give a shout out to really everyone that's on the ground in our school buildings, including our students, for being able to pivot, for being able to prioritize the needs of the collective over an individual preference or need at a time when we really need it. And I think that's why this is a special community, and really continues to prove that all the way down to our youngest kids. So thank you, teachers. It's hot. I know no one wants to be in a classroom with a mask on right now, but I'm so proud to be a part of a district that's making those hard decisions.
So unfortunately, Vicki Wolfinger could not be here, but she has a shout out anyway. So she asked me to read it. So this is on behalf of Member Wolfinger. Special shout out to Ms. Amato for bringing our JV volleyball boys team to the championship. While they did not win, they won conference as the most winningest team. Ms. Amato retired from District 73.5, but continues to volunteer to help our kids and community. Thank you for your dedication. I also want to give Mr. Mendoza a huge shout out for his willingness to jump in and help Symphonic Band when Mr. DiStefano was unable to travel with them to Super State. So thank you. So that is on behalf of Member Wolfinger. And then I would just like to thank everyone. We're at the final stretch, and everybody is feeling the pressure, and now it's 90 degrees, which is awful. And, it's just a lot. It's a lot to take. And, I know we're feeling it in our house, and I just want to say, we're almost at the end, and thank you so much for all your hard work this year. And I hope you all have wonderful, wonderful breaks, because when we meet again for the board, it will be officially summer vacation. So we won't see, as many folks here maybe. Maybe we'll see even more because it's summer vacation and everybody is missing each other, so they all want to come to a school board meeting. That would be super exciting, yeah. Anyway, thank you for everybody from the building staff to the buildings and grounds, to the teachers, to support staff, the administrators, and the parents and the kids. Just thank you so much for doing an absolutely splendid job keeping everybody safe and healthy and learning lots of cool stuff. So thank you. Oh, exciting. So item 4A, strategic plan presentation from DELT.
Yeah. Can do double rows too. I think systems is first, right? Yep. Yeah. Of course. Duh. So Derek is nervous back there. He's worrying about his wires behind him there. But I'm Marty Beam. I'm the assistant principal at Mccracken and the Strand leader for the Family and Community as Agency strand of the District Equity Leadership Team, or DELT. And we're going to present to you kind of our year in review of our DELT work this year for the school year 21-22. Topics for tonight, we're going to introduce our DELT members, many of whom are here tonight. We're going to introduce our strands and the objectives that they took on, lay out the progress made this year towards the 2021-22 objectives. Now, these are the objectives we identified in last winter and spring. And then preview objectives that will be undertaken next year along with those projected timelines, and then take some questions from you. Big thanks, first of all, before I start, I want to thank our DELT team and many of whom are here, so let's give a big round of applause to them. Here are the DELT members, so representing all three buildings, including administration, really worked really hard all year. I'll talk a little bit about that, kind of the year in review. It was about the work this year. We had ended last spring, and there was a lot of work done in regards to pulling the team together, laying out the district equity action plan, the DEEP, and that was great work. But this year we actually got down into having to get started on it. And so what you're going to hear tonight is that this work is going to sound really different depending on the strand. So you're going to hear about the writing of an equity mission statement. You're going to hear about collaboration between strands, surveys that went out, lots of research that went into individual topics, facilitating student circles, hosting community roundtables. So some of these conversations, and we know conversations around equity are sensitive conversations, but they happen between teacher to teacher, teacher to administrator, teacher to student, and staff and community members, and sometimes all in the same room. So I hope when you hear the presentations today, you hear that work, because a lot of work did get done, and we're really excited about what we've been able to get finished, but also excited about the future. Primary focus for this year then was to seize upon the momentum created last year in pulling the team together and creating the DEEP, and to begin work on the objectives. Tonight we'll share our progress towards these objectives, as well as a sneak peek into our goals and thoughts for next year. So first up, I'm going to bring up the system strand.
Good evening. I will start with Strand 1, but let me just say that the system strand is focused on process, policies, procedures, and really taking a look through our full system of what we are doing and how we're being responsive. And that's what you should primarily see here. Oops, I have to do that? I think so. Thank you. Sorry. Am I going the wrong way? Yeah. Thank you.
In case you missed it.
in case I missed, just a refresher. Here we go. So that's what you would see here, where we talk about the systemic and the continuous development, advancing equity within our district through policies, processes, procedures, and initiatives. And so for our system strand, we are focused on ensuring that we created our mission statement. So we have an equity mission statement that we will be sharing with you all. We've shared it across the district. I won't have anything else put up. And then the next thing is,
so really our big job for the year was to create this district equity mission statement. After a lot of discussion last year, we really
I just want to make sure we talk into the mic so that the people on Zoom can hear. Sorry, because we stream the meeting. Yeah.
Sorry, people on Zoom. So our big job was really just to create this mission statement. We know how important words are, and we wanted something that was visible and tangible. So I don't need to read through all of these, but you can see the breakdown to create the statement and to get feedback loops, to be able to share it with stakeholders, and we're hoping it'll be approved tonight. So how was it created? The members of the system strand did research. We looked at how to write a mission statement. We looked at mission statements that are already out there, and we looked at the elements that we knew we wanted for our district. So we wrote the statement, we edited it, we revised it, we shared it with the DELT members. The families at the roundtable meeting were able to hear it and give feedback. We shared it with the students in the Mccracken Social Justice Club, who had some really interesting things to say. And in fact, one student was so excited, she wanted to read it at the concert last week. And we said, well, it has to be approved first, so we can't do that. But it was totally her own initiative, so I know we were sort of tickled by that. And the Middleton SOAR Club also got a chance to take a look at it and give any feedback. So here it is. I'm not going to read it to you. I think you've all seen it. But we tried to encapsulate the things that we believe in, the things that we think that the district believe in, and we wanted to speak to some very specific things, acknowledging systemic inequities and the idea that it's important to bring that to our students and teach them to acknowledge and to recognize systemic inequities. So, ta-da! And then our second deep goal, we were very excited to put a check mark next to that one, I just want to say, is really kind of a larger one because it has us looking at the systems in our district that are important to how we function, and we want to be sure that it's the material that we have is equitable for everyone, and the access to it is equitable as well. So you'll see that most of this stuff is really on the docket for this summer and next year, but they're big items, looking at Power School, looking at how we do our translations, trying to streamline and focus student, teacher, parent conferences differently. And again, I know we're already like way over and we're the first ones, so I'm just going to move right along. And this is a continuation, again, conferences, looking at registration, and really just looking at the things we already have and seeing how they fit the bill for us and for all of our families. I think I get to swap back with you.
and so really quickly, for our objective for 1.3, it is a focus on increasing staff diversity. We are engaging in several things, and we're needing to collaborate with several partners when it comes to our other DELT strands to make sure that we are doing the proper outreach over the next course of the year. You can see that our plan is 2022-2023. For quite a few of these, we have two in progress. And before I walk away and give it to teaching and learning, I want you to know that Laura and I are not a team of two. We actually have Ruth at the helm with us, And we also have Nikki Barnold, who is not with us today, but she has been an amazing support. Like, I couldn't imagine not having her on the team. And so I want to recognize all of our team members. And I think we've probably got one mixed up.
Hello, the next strand is the Teaching and Learning strand, and our members are Sarah Hampton, McGean Rosenfeld, Lynn Tucker, Allison Acevedo, Christine Paulson, Kate Magnuson, and myself. And our goal is to advance equity for each student through intentionally embedding equity-driven pedagogy in the curriculum, resources, instructional approaches, use and consideration of assessments, and academic programming for the purpose that I named. So I think I'm going to hand it over to Lynn Tucker for our first objective.
Okay, so our first objective is to review and revise our RCDC curricular resources with a culturally responsive lens. So this is our task list. Our group is kind of different, I think, from some of the other groups because we are just a small group of teachers, and these are very big systematic changes that need to be made. And so we did a lot of determining, you know, the steps that we could take to make those big changes. But a lot of what we are going to be doing is going to happen next year when our group becomes larger, and we have more representatives on it in each of the different buildings, as well as in different curricular areas, so that we can really start to, first off, decide what our framework is going to look like, and then how to best implement that framework or integrate that framework into our RCDC units that are already written. And so I am going to pass it over to McGee.
So our second objective has to do with looking at the extended learning program and being able to look at the screener, because we really want to make sure we have a very inclusive and equitable way of getting students into that ELP program. And so like Lynn said before, we rely on the ELP committee because we're the ones that are coming up with the ideas and how to do things, but we need the committee to move us forward. And so the first thing that we needed to do was have the ELP committee convene. And we shared with them our vision, and we reviewed the ELP audit with them so they knew what we were looking at and what prior information was given before as well. So what's going to be happening is that the ELP committee is going to be researching various universal screeners and approaches for ELP programming in the future. And then the ELP committee will revise the screener that we have right now, because we want to make sure that our criteria is really looking at it in a very inclusive manner. And then after we've set upon a screener that we feel is more equitable, we're going to have a subset of teachers pilot the new screener, and then the committee will review the data to see how it represents our students. All right, so the next team up is Student Voice, Climate, and Culture.
Hello, I am Asma Ahmed. I'm the speech and language pathologist at Oliver Mccracken Middle School, and I'm obviously presenting for the Student Voice, Climate, and Culture strand. In our strand, we also have Sally Alvarado, Carly Benrus, Lynn Katanis, Debbie Chen, and Wendy Ma. And even though we're called the Student Voice, Climate, and Culture strand, we also do represent staff voice. And so our goal is to consistently seek staff and students' feedback and experiences and nurture a positive, authentic, and meaningful organizational culture and climate. So we have 3 major objectives, but you'll see later on our second objective actually has a lot of mini objectives within it. Our first objective is staff focus, and it's to nurture a positive, meaningful climate and culture embedded in equity for district staff. And you'll see all the stuff that we've done in the past. This year we have focused on creating a climate survey that the staff can take. So we're working on this because staff identified this as an area of need during the district equity audit back in 2019. They felt that they needed more of a voice regarding the district climate and culture, and that the 5 essentials survey that we take once a year wasn't enough. And understanding and accommodating these values will lead to improved education for our students as well as improved staff satisfaction and retention. So during trimester 2 of this school year, SVCC spent our time creating the survey questions, taking practice surveys, and having representatives from various departments within the district take the practice survey so that we can have our questions be relevant and focused on our district. Then the survey was sent to all staff by Dr. Hightower on March 25th. And staff had until April 13th of this year to take the survey, and this is all staff certified, classified from various departments like Organic Life, Tech Department, and so on. In total, we ended up having 126 people respond to the survey. And so then after the April 13th deadline, SVCC analyzed the results, and we shared the numerical results and summaries of the respondent comments with building and district administrators yesterday. Some of the responses were unique, so certain administrators did get a little bit more like detailed copies of the responses. And we're planning to share the results, the numerical results and the summaries with district staff on this Friday, and we're hoping to also share it with the Board of Education members this Friday as well through Alex. And we've encouraged administrators to review the results with the larger purpose being to create a positive and meaningful climate and culture for the district staff. The goal for the next year is to hopefully give this survey at least 2 to 3 times so that it's a more frequent check-in than something like the 5 essentials. And the feedback that we've received from staff indicates that they prefer the questions on our survey. They feel like it's more related to our district than the 5 essential questions. Next year, we're hoping to also work on creating a staff exit survey and process for when staff leave the district. And then we're going to the next objective, which is more student-focused. This is the one that has like many objectives within it. The major objective is to foster a culture and climate amongst our students that is committed to anti-bias and anti-bullying. And Sally's going to take over for me.
Okay. I'm Sally Alvarado. I'm the English language teacher here at Mccracken. So for this first portion of our objective, in order to work towards this objective, we reviewed the current systems that are in place across all 3 buildings. And after reviewing, and this is the process for students to report incidents. And after we reviewed them, we developed new systems for reporting any kind of incidents of bias in order to ensure that they're developmentally appropriate for each school. So at Mccracken, we have our Mccracken Care Card, which is just for students to complete. They can report something that is about an incident with themselves, or about a friend. And then we also have the safety reporting form, which parents can also access through the district website. And I believe that an email went out about that to families today, if I'm remembering correctly. And then we've been in communication with MTSS to discuss if and how the safety reporting form should be updated for future years. So that's in process and will continue to be in process because we know that things don't always need to stay the same. And then students do tend to report directly to teachers rather than relying on forms, which I think shows that we have positive relationships within our buildings. So that's not a bad thing. That's at Mccracken. And then at Middleton, our Middleton Strand members worked on creating a student reporting form for 3rd through 5th grade students and started implementing it during the latter half of this year. And this is going well, but the same thing, we noticed that students do tend to report more to their teachers rather than to an anonymous form. So that's a positive as well. And then for our younger Middleton students, 1st and 2nd graders, and our Meyer students, our Strand members have been working on a developmentally appropriate presentation for them as well that we're hoping to roll out next year. Okay, and then this next part of our objective, these tasks are in progress. And so this year we focused on Mccracken by hosting our first round of student equity circles. So students were given information about how to register for these circles and what they would look like through the advisory slideshow. And they had over a week to register for these circles. We had about 10 students in 7th grade and about 10 students in 8th grade register and participate in these circles where we talked about the climate and culture at Mccracken. We didn't have enough responses from 6th grade, so that was postponed, but we're looking forward to hosting that in the fall next year. So students were given a questionnaire at the beginning of the equity circle to kind of reflect on their experiences about the climate and culture so that they didn't kind of jump into conversation without having time for reflection. And we used the process of a restorative circle to host those so that every student had an equitable voice within the circle. And students were able to pass if they didn't feel comfortable answering a question. So these circles provided a really great opportunity for us to hear student voices who are not always heard, to share their experiences. And we were able to identify some themes from those circles, which we were able to talk to staff members with. We were able to talk to different leadership organizations like the GSA, like the Social Justice Club and Cultural Diversity Club to kind of take note of what students who aren't in those clubs are seeing in order to continue to learn and grow from each other. And up next, so this third part of our objective about piloting affinity groups is also not yet started, but we're still planning ahead for those. So while we haven't officially started this task, we have a sort of affinity groups in the form of the clubs at Mccracken. Like we have our Gay Straight Alliance, we have the Cultural Diversity Club for our diverse students to come together and share about their cultures. So those both provide students with the opportunities to share about their identities and experiences. And one of our goals for the future in terms of affinity groups is to identify what those groups would actually look like, how regularly they might meet, and of course who will lead them, because it's really important that for these affinity groups, the leader be of the same background of the group of students, whether it be our African American students, whether it be Muslim students, any group of students that have a common background, and that can be what's the word I'm looking for? Thank you, intersectional. Yes, of course. Thanks. We want to make sure that the leaders of those affinity groups are of that background and are trained and prepared to host those. Okay, and then this is my last one. So our third objective is to increase restorative justice practices across the district to foster a positive and inclusive culture and climate. And this kind of co-aligns with different groups within our district. So there's been a lot of collaboration going on this topic. So 2 years ago, the school district had a professional development led by a social worker named Teresa Quinn. She is now the Dean of Culture and Climate thank you, Esma. She is now the Dean of Culture and Climate for District 65. And since then, we had district-wide professional development this year from the Responsive Classroom. We met as a Strand with Dan Swartz and Angela DeMay to discuss professional development for next year. So thank you to both of you. So we identified at least 2 days that will be dedicated to trauma-informed practices next year, which align with our restorative practices continuum. And then we also have Angela as a great resource because she brings a lot of knowledge on restorative practices, so we're very grateful to have her on the district. And now I will pass it back to Esma.
This is our last slide, I promise. We just wanted to give you an update on how our community roundtable went. We held it on April 18th, and so these are some of the highlights. We've made sure, like Sally said, we made sure the Mccracken safety form is available for everyone to use, so you don't need an sd735.org email address to access it. And it was discussed with our students at the beginning of the year, but we did send a reminder email yesterday. The next thing was some parents were wondering, or some guardians were wondering, who the point of contact is at the middle school level. So the answer to that is the advisory teacher. But if you don't know who your child's advisory teacher is, you can always contact the office and then they'll contact the relevant staff. There was positive feedback regarding improved communication via text messages. Right now it's an opt-in service. Community members did wonder if it could be an opt-out option instead. There was a strong desire to reclaim community connections. Community members expressed that they would like to have more opportunities to connect within the school building. For example, STEAM competitions, band events, and just like more relaxed times to connect as a community within the school building. And finally, someone suggested having a staff member who is clearly in charge of the district's equity initiatives, someone who is knowledgeable about bias, bullying, and microaggressions. Maggie.
I'm Maggie Price. I teach here at Mccracken. I'll be introducing our professional learning strand. Our team is made up of Priya Amin, Katie Hollenberg, Carrie Williams, Molly Domingo, Jody Ehrenberg, Amanda Dunnican, and Dan Swartz. I'm going to quickly review our two objectives. Our first one that we've been working on is developing a continuum of systemic learning for all staff, so not just teachers, all staff on equity. And our second is to ensure every facilitated professional development by the district acknowledges and utilizes equity as foundational to the new and enhanced learning.
Hello, I'm Katie Hollenberg. I teach second grade at Middleton. So you see up here, our objective 4.1 is to develop a continuum of systematic learning for all staff on equity. And I want to just highlight a couple of them. The first one I want to highlight is 4.1b, that we are currently working to identify, we've identified our vendors, but we're currently looking to find which vendors meet the needs that we identified on our survey from our staff. We are looking at such vendors as Dr. Yvette Dubiel, who worked with us on our audit, also Julianne Shirker, ASCD, and ADL. So we'll be trying to match what we found on the survey, the needs of our staff with those vendors. If we look at 4.1c, we have dates on the calendar devoted to equity training for all of our staff during our institute days in October and March. And additionally, we will be embedding equity in all PD that we're going to be having this year. So we know that that's something that we expect to see in everything that we do, because that is that important to us. And that kind of goes to the next part for Amanda. Oh, and that's just, that has to do with we're all working together to embed the equity.
Hi, I'm Amanda Dunnican. I'm an instructional coach in the district. Katie had mentioned that we sent a survey out to staff. We based our survey on the professional learning or the equity learning continuum that Dr. Dubiel presented to us. On an equity learning and implementation journey, people move through the continuum from understanding, which means knowing what equity is and what people may need to unlearn before they can move forward. Then going to navigating, which is applying learning to work and interactions, things you might see in classrooms in our district. And then to transforming, which is making an impact on the outside world, primarily outside of schools. As Katie mentioned, we want to ensure that we differentiate our professional learning for our staff. And so in planning for the next school year, we sent a survey to all district staff, and we asked them to identify what equity subtopic would most impact their personal growth. Based on our survey results, many staff consider the biggest impact would be to focus on how their understanding of equity can impact their practice. So in other words, many staff are in the navigating stage of the equity learning continuum. So now I'll turn it over to Dan to talk about choice in professional learning.
So one thing that the committee is looking to model next year is a philosophy of choice in addition to differentiation. What that means is that we're all going to engage in the equity work and building our capacity. What will give teachers choice is, where do they engage in that work? Are they going to engage in gender and gender identities? Are they going to engage in race and racism discussions? And so that gives people choice and where to enter the work. And this is something that we hope will continue through all of our professional development, in addition to having differentiation. Now I'm going to turn it to Priya, to family, community as agency. Back to Marty. There you go, Marty. Thank you.
Once again, we're here with the Family and Communities Agency, Strand. Our Strand members for this year, Jenny Walsh, Stephanie Lorenas, Lynn Chambers, Samia Sharif, and Melissa Arkin. I'm lucky enough to have Stephanie and Lynn with us tonight to talk about our objectives.
So our first objective is to create and develop the Equity Advisory Committee. So last year we had a listening meeting with the community and started planning for further for our partnership with the community based on their experiences and feedback. And this year it was really powerful to hear what the community thought and everything last year. So it gave us an opportunity to plan further for this year. So this year we met in October again just to get back together and refine again what we were going to be working on this year with the community. And we set up some community roundtables with each of the strands. So each of the strands presented throughout the year, each of the 5 strands presented. And we started our first community roundtable in December, where the strands presented and then had several questions for the community, and Strand members and family and community as agency members had a chance to meet with community members to discuss these questions and things that were on the minds of the people in the community. So it was great to get their feedback, and we've heard some responses to the feedback already, and we're all still working on it at this time. And our final meeting was last night, and that was our turn to present from Family and Community as agency. And it was really exciting to set some new goals for next year. That brings us to one of our objectives. So it's always exciting to see some completed up there. So we had a chance, we have already facilitated the goal setting and purpose of the group. Of course, this is always evolving, but at this point we have that set. We use the weekly to promote any Family and Community as agency events. That has been completed. We determined the structure for the meetings with the communities, and that has been working really well. Everybody knows what to expect when they come, and we have a chance to have presentation and all learn from each of the strands, but then we also have an opportunity to have everybody's voices heard in small groups. One of the things that is ongoing and will be forever is we always want more and new people and as diverse of a group as we can get. So you can see that our work with district-wide EL and special education staff to identify and contact parents who might be interested in the community. And then also next year, one of our goals is also to identify some spokespeople in the district to support some of the committee work, some of the committee around equity work. So, thank you. And Stephanie.
So hopefully you're starting to see some of the connections among the strands. So for example, when you're looking at spokespeople, we've sort of heard that phrase come up a few times. And so we really are, as we move forward, we're looking to see how some of this work overlaps so that the different strands can work together. Which takes us to our last objective, which is to evaluate the current translation program and system to better serve our community. So again, we're seeing that word system. Systems mentions translation, and so obviously those two groups will really need to come together to figure out how this is going to work. In looking at the progress that we've made toward this goal, we have a lot of things ongoing, and so we are looking to gather data to determine the current community trends with tools that are in current use so that we can continue to modify and figure all of that out to best serve the needs of our community. Determine the services and documents that are currently available. We send so much communication as a district, so we really want to figure out what are the highest priorities of things to be translated, what can be systematized in terms of translating, things like that. Promoting the tools and resources, we decided that oftentimes things are a matter of publicizing versus not having them, and so really trying to publicize and make sure that everyone has access to the information that we're sending home. Strand members are working with our Equity Advisory Committee and our Bilingual Parent Advisory Committee to get community feedback to determine wants and needs. So again, looking to our parent and family community to tell us what is most essential for them so that anything going home is very clear and understood. And then using all of our different parent groups and community groups to determine ways to increase parent response to surveys and things like that because we obviously want to make sure that we are getting feedback from all of our various community group members, and so figuring out the best ways to do that. So these are all in progress, and we look forward to diving into them more next year.
So this brings us, first of all, thank you for listening. And then also just any questions, and I think maybe the best way to do this would keep this mic live, and anybody from the Strand, if you recognize a question that really pertains to your Strand, come on up and kind of take over.
I just wanted to thank you for putting the focus on choice and differentiation when it comes to staff development. I think that that's something that administrators often miss, and I think it's great that you didn't, because if you want buy-in from people, you have to have choice and you have to respect where they're at. So thank you, and it's a great modeling that you guys are doing for our teachers in the classroom as well. And the suggestion about an equity administrator, I mean, you know, financially, I think that's something that I think it bears looking into. I think it's a good point, because when you want, if this really is a priority, and I think it needs to be, and obviously you guys have put in so much work into doing it, putting a person at the head of it that can do that makes sense. I mean, obviously it's a longer conversation, but it's a good thinking.
I just want to say thank you for all the hard work that has gone into all the work that was done this year and in this presentation. I've had the opportunity to attend some of the community roundtables. I haven't been able to attend the last two, but just from the parent standpoint of being able to participate and make connections with teachers and administrators and have them kind of hear perspectives and kind of bring those things back and to see them show up is something that a lot of the community's been asking for, and it's really nice to kind of see it living. So thank you, and continue the work that you do. I know it's just a start, and we have many, many, many miles to go, but I want to acknowledge the work that's been done.
Yeah, I want to praise really the incredible amount of work that went into this. It's comprehensive and deep at the same time, which is really incredible. I have to say, I've been a community organizer in immigrant communities across all of the suburbs, and I've never seen a school district do something so truly sincere and real. So kudos to all of you. It's hard work. I just want to, you know, I'm particularly interested in the family and community as agency, just from my own background, and wanted to encourage you all to think about the faith communities that are present here as really important partners. And I'm not sure if they've been engaged yet from the Equity Advisory Committee, so I just wanted to hear your own perspective about the different types of stakeholders that have been engaged in terms of the Equity Advisory Committee. I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
That's a great opportunity to include. And, you know, next year, one of the things we talked about is moving away from just the Strand presentations at the community roundtables. And so we want to have more focused topics that'll appeal to the community members. They may include community members, and that would be a good opportunity to bring community members in to present. But we're, you know, that's what our big quest is for next year, to look to expand the community roundtables, to make them, I guess you could say, more dynamic, you know, to bring more people into the conversation.
Okay, great. And then I also just wanted to mention, you know, the translation is so important, and I know it's always a conundrum. I mean, it's never perfect. There's never any place where you arrive and the problem is solved, because it's always ongoing. But have you thought at all about, because when I think about the issue of translation, I also think about, from the larger point of view of, it's about communication, right, with our multilingual communities, or, you know, communities where the parents perhaps don't speak English. Has the group there thought, and like kind of at a larger level, about translation being like one piece of it at all? Or does that fit in another strand?
I'm not sure. So translation being like one part of, like, in other words, how
One
we
part of-
communicate?
Yeah, communicating with, members of our community who are, struggle with English, for example. Or, yeah.
Sure, and I'll give you a good example of one of the things that's underway, and this actually is a way that community engagement, which is one of our DLTs, one of our leadership teams, is they're working with Ruth Sinker, one of our teams within the team, so to speak, to create a community backpack that will help families find the tools on the website. So it's a way of communicating without making it more complex. You know, it's like one-stop shopping and highlighting where they're going to find those resources. Because as we know, looking at a district website can be confusing at all times. You know, is it in the About Us section? Is it a staff link or a community link? So, you know, just things like that. So they're working with Ruth to try to make a link, or so to speak, or the button that can get them to a number of resources. So we're hoping that that's a way of communicating without sending out more communication, if that makes sense.
Well, and then just to add.
Can I just add, Ruth is also thinking about how to manipulate the website so that we can get better understanding of which languages are not translating properly. So actually having the Google Web do it so that she can take it to people within our district that are great translators to say these are some catchphrases that don't work in the language and these are some that do. And then I hate to speak for Ruth, but I mean, she just has so many great ideas of like where she wants to go with this.
Well, and then if I could just tack on a little bit, even to take your idea one step further, communication is connection. And so we've talked a lot at our little group about how sometimes it's not about translating the words on the page. It's really about knowing who to go to, and that whole publicizing idea of, if I have a question, no matter what the language is, do I just have someone that I feel comfortable connecting with in the district to be able to answer that question? And so I think that kind of gets to like the broader view of translation, as you're trying to put it. We're super excited at Middleton. We've just, we have a few EL candidates right now who are, they're speaking our top 5 languages. And so we're hoping to just even further broaden you know, that connection, whether it be language or the fact that students are part of our EL community or another staff in the building who share a faith background, right? Or who just connect in the various ways that we connect with students and families every day. We're looking forward to that, so.
Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's so much more than just it's connection. Thank you.
So yeah, this is a great, I'm kind of, my head is like really wrapped up in getting ready for our strategic planning next year, and it's so great to have so much of this work done and laid out like this to help us inform, you know, how it plugs into the strategic plan, and thinking about like what kind of questions should we be asking and what kind of, you know, groups should we be having to like really work through all of this. So I'm excited to think about how the district can think about the board can work with DELT to plan for that strategic plan. Is really exciting to me. And I had a couple, I really like this identify spokespeople in the district, just following up on what you're saying about, you know, even going so far as like getting the point where perhaps they're on the web page, or, you know, we have parents that are representatives for various strands, right? Like, you know, I've been working with a couple parents on getting the, you know, parent group for the GSA at Mccracken off the ground, and we've had 2 meetings, and it's been really great, and we've been holding it at the library because we felt like some parents who are dealing with their children coming out or their gender identity may just feel like they want kind of a privater space. And that's been really nice, but it's also thinking about like, how can we even just have like a parent representative, right, that someone could reach out to? I could see that being really beneficial, so that's wonderful. I had just 2 questions. One on the ELP. I love the idea of piloting the screener. Is it going to be like this? I just remember when we piloted reference-based grading for 6th grade. So is the idea to pilot 1 grade, or have you thought that far about like what would be how would we pilot a screener?
I knew there would be an ELP question. You know what, we haven't really gotten that far yet, but what we were thinking about was, you know, right now we give in 3rd grade, we give the screener. In 5th grade, they give the screener again. other grades in middle school. So instead of all of third grade, for example, giving that pilot screener, maybe just 2 or 3. Same thing in 5th grade. So instead of every teacher who's been giving these various screeners for ELP, maybe it's a subset of those, and so we can see how it pans out and works out, and to see, does it make a difference in who we're capturing for the program.
So you mean like if there's 5 there's 5 teachers, so like 2 of the 5 teachers would do it, and then the other 3 teachers would do it the same way, and then it would be a comparison? Is that what you're saying?
Well, something like that. We haven't gotten that far yet, but that was our thought. Instead of just completely going over to a new screener, let's, maybe everyone gets the old screener, but if 2 or 3 give the new screener, and we can kind of compare and contrast the results. Did it give us a different result? If it is different, then what is the difference? And so it'll help us just kind of, level the playing field to see what we're looking at and see if it made a difference in who's actually being, meeting the criteria for that program. Because our goal is to really make sure that the program is representative of our students in our school. And that's really important to us. We want to make sure that all students have this opportunity. And so we're looking at the screener, and as we look at the screener, we also want to look at approaches too. So it's a 2-prong approach.
Yeah, I think, and I also think like it will be a multi-year phase, right? Because we're going to screen the kids, we have to see if a different population, if a different group is put into ELP from 5th to 6th grade, right? Based on a new piloted screener, then how are they performing in the classroom, 6th, 7th grade, right? So I mean, it seems like there's a multi-year.
Yes, that's exactly right. It is multi-year, and I think more of it will unfold as the group looks at the various screeners, look at the various approaches. We talk with other districts how they're doing it, just so we can broaden our scope and our knowledge as well. And so yes, it definitely will be a multi-year, all of this that we're doing many years, but yes, it will be. It's not going to change next year. Nothing drastic is going to happen. But because we want to do it thoughtfully and we want to do it the right way. And so we want to take our time and make sure that we're looking at things in a very thoughtful manner.
Yeah, I just have one question that's in line with this. While we're figuring this out, is there a pathway of access for families or students who may not have been recognized by the previous screening process or are not recognized while we're figuring out our pilot? Is my question making sense?
It is, and I don't know if I can answer that just because right now our criteria is remaining the same, but we have the inquiry process that's been in there as well. So if people feel that a student should be represented in the program and is not represented, could be a teacher, could be a parent, we still have that process open to us, because it's not always about those numbers that we see in the various screeners that we're giving currently. So we already have that part in our process, but we really want to make sure that we're expanding and looking a little bit more. So there are avenues, but nothing's changing for the time being.
Just to build off that, kind of curious how often it's utilized, the other pathway, and if I don't think no one can answer this right now, but like, do we have historical data on if we think that other pathway is also successful? I mean, if we're doing something that is removing some of the barriers, then we should learn from that as well.
Right, and I don't know, Lynn, do you want to speak to that? Because I know you've been in this process as well, but I know that in the summer and early fall that people can partake of that process for students going into like the 4th grade. In 4th grade itself, students can then retake one of the screeners to see if they can qualify. I think that also happens at the middle school level as well. So there are different access points. It's not just once in 3rd grade and then that's it. There are different access points throughout the years. Does that help?
Thank you, Ms. Rosenthal. Any other questions, Ms. Rosenthal? Thank you so much. Any other questions for the committee? Thank you all so much for all your hard work and dedication. We really appreciate it. I actually did have one other question, because I had that as well. The survey, right? Yeah, so you said the equity survey that went out went to 126 people participated in it. Do we know how many that's out of the total population that could have participated?
I don't know. I don't have those total numbers. I feel like that's something that the district would know better than I would. But I do know that we had representatives from, or I should say respondents from every single department except for, I think, buildings and grounds.
Yeah, we can get that data. Thank you so much. And one other question about that. Sorry. You said you wanted that there was a discussion about possibly doing it 2 or 3 more times, the survey?
Yeah.
Not a year.
No,
like
like
over
within a year.
Within the year or over 2 to 3 more years?
No,
or?
no. The idea is to have like a finger on the pulse kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Because 5 Essentials only happens once a
Well,
year.
yeah, that's
like
5
March,
Essentials
right?
is, yeah.
So the idea would be something like once a trimester might be too much, so maybe once at the like September, November, or October point, and then once again towards the end of the school year.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just so administrators have,
Yeah.
idea of how staff are feeling.
No, I think that's a great idea, especially because like at the beginning of the year, you're also just like your headspace is at one place at the beginning of a school year and at another at the end of the school year as well, too. So just, and also if like changes can be made during the year, right, to improve, that would be an important thing to know, so there's not like issues building up over the course of the year. So, okay, thanks.
And we did learn a lot with our pilot survey, so we know what adjustments to make for the next survey. So it's a little bit easier to accumulate all that data.
Thank you. All right, that was great. Thank you so much. All right, so the next, and if you are going to leave, because I know that happens, and that's fine, you should please take some cake with you on your way out so that Dr. Hightower does not have to eat an entire Trace Lake cheesecake to herself. So bring it home to your family, eat it yourself in the car, whatever you'd like, but please take some cake. So the next strategic plan presentations for June is data. Oh, that's exciting, data. All right, so item C, Superintendent Updates. Do you want to give an update? So in an effort to be efficient, we have decided that Superintendent Update, Student Services, CIA, Facilities, Technology are all in the report. If you would like to read them on board docs, go right ahead. I do think we need to do this. Oh, Dan has an update. Okay, so Dan has one. But suspension report, it's in there. Do we need to talk about it? Is that like an official thing we need to do? Yeah.
All right.
There was one suspension at Middleton. It was a 2-day suspension. The reason students are expected to refrain from bullying, harassment, including sexual harassment, using racial or ethnic slurs, or other behaviors that degrade another's dignity or target another's race, sex, nationality, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, or disability.
Thank you. And what about the principal reports? Are we doing those aloud, or are we just reading them? I think it's nice when the principals tell us what's going on. You don't have to do the whole report, but if you just want to give us a couple highlights, it's just nice, and I think it's nice for the people watching at home.
So the biggest highlight for Meyer was Mr. Alvin being on NPR. May have been the most exciting thing of the year, actually. I don't think many people know this, but Mr. Alvin has been receiving fan mail just from strangers who heard the story and were just really touched by it. So that's been such a nice outpouring of goodwill, and I think he feels very valued and special. We also had representation at the ECA Fun Fair, and there were about 60 families who came through from Niles Township, so that was an excellent attendance of families, and we shared information about our preschool program. Also for Earth Day, we had our students paint rocks and place them in the school garden, and actually we're still in the process of placing them in the school garden since we had so much rain. It was very difficult to get out there, but we are finally having the great weather to do that. We've also started benchmark assessments for the spring. We celebrated Staff Appreciation Week, and in terms of preschool registration, we are all filled up. We have one student on the wait list, so luckily we've been able to accommodate most people who are interested. And we completed preschool screening to determine which families we were going to offer those discounted tuition spots to. And tomorrow night we are having the Myers Showcase, so it's our first in-person event, really. We had the party on the playground and some small events, but this is like our big event of the year, so we are very excited. The hallways and classrooms look beautiful, and we are ready.
Thank you. Nikki, do you want to give Middleton's report?
I do, I just need to find it. Okay, so we had a Social Justice Day on May 22nd, and it was an opportunity for our students to create off of a note card, something that was thoughtful and using words to celebrate diversity and equity, and then we hung them up in our front hallway. Dr. Acevedo was there, and she helped us throughout the day. And the picture in my board report is actually one that she took for me. So White Pines was a huge disappointment, and I really appreciate the board members for recognizing that, but I do also want to thank Mrs. Lorenas and the 5th grade teachers for all the hard work that they put into getting that ready and launching that to then have to pull it away from students. And it was fun to be in the building for those 3 days and see the students still be able to have fun. Life is full of adversity, and difficult times in our lives are actually what make us stronger. And so this was one of those times for those students, and I'm glad that we were able to be there to support them through that, and that the parents could as well. I do want to give one more musical shout out for the year to Mrs. Merrier, Mrs. Anderson, and Mrs. Bond, and all the teachers that came throughout the weekend, and Mrs. Lorenas for supporting it and helping set up, take down, and just generally supervise the event. It was a lot of work for everyone, but I watched the video. It was beautiful. It was special. And the kids put a lot of hard work into something that really turned out well. So that's a really big accomplishment for our building that we're proud of. Staff appreciation. We did our best to celebrate our teachers and our staff, not just our teachers, but our paraprofessionals, our custodians, our nurses, all of our staff, just to make sure that they know how appreciated they are. It's a lot of work, as you know. It's been a hard year for everyone. And we had Taco Tuesday today, which was fun. And then we are getting to Helen's point, Dr. Way's point, a little bit back to normal. We had our Walk to School Wednesday. We had a Smensel sale. And just to see our student council friends at lunch sell the Smensels and decide what they're going to do for their 5th grade gift it's just been a lot of fun to watch. And then our Art Sonia winner was also exciting. And I want to thank Mrs. Beatrice for sending daily emails to all of us to remind us to vote for Remy. And she did end up winning, which was fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
So we too have a lot going on at the end of the school year. I wanted something that's not in the report but was in the weekly was Carrie Eccleston, who sponsors our garden club, received a $1,000 grant for the garden club based on her submission for Earth Day, which was an essay, and also a video which featured students from our garden club. So that was really exciting, and also it will go towards, an irrigation drip system to really help keep the garden looking the way that it usually does. And we know over the pandemic, there was some, loss of plant life, and it's taking a while to get it looking the way it should. But thank you to Mr. Kerrigan, who is helping, Carrie with that, and with our garden club. We're hoping that the students can really take, some time over the summer. They also meet over the summer, throughout the summer, just to get that going, and to keep it looking like it does. So thank you to Carrie and to Ed. Camp McLean for us is still on for 7th grade, which is taking place next week. That's as of today. We're always watching the numbers and looking at, making sure our students and our staff are safe. And so we appreciate our parents just being patient with us as we work to make sure that they can go on this trip. We are looking forward to it. At the middle school, we're doing well, and our students, we really congratulate our students and our staff for continuing to just follow our mitigation, and they're very responsible and respectful. So we appreciate that, and there are a lot of things that are outside of the control of both families and students and staff, so we'll respond to that as we need to. But the plan is we're still going right now. I would also like to bring attention to, our continuation of our partnership with the Skokie Public Library. We're really appreciative of all their programming, and thank you to Ms. Priya Amin, who reached out and arranged for the library representatives to come into the building and actually host some trivia activities during our students' recess period, so that was exciting. We had a lot of accolades for our band and our choir programs at the state competition level. So our 7th grade singers, 8th grade singers, and Hornet Harmony all earned superior ratings during the state competition in April, which is the highest level. And also, out of 31 choirs, Hornet Harmony was the only choir to get those honors. So kudos to Miss Amy Kuipert and our students. It's also no surprise, Symphonic Band also earned superior state ratings. And a shout out to, obviously, Mr. Chip DiStefano, but also Cesar Mendoza, who was mentioned, needed to really pivot really quickly to go to Super State with our students, and also to our parent volunteers. We thank you as well. We do have something that's exciting coming up. So Stand Against Racism, we celebrated that in April, but we also have an opportunity for student activism in May. So on May 23rd, our Learning Center, along with our Social Justice Club, is sponsoring a Stand Against Racism Unity Rally after school, which is happening outside, hopefully with nice weather. And there will be some activities, some speakers, performances by our Hornet Harmony, club showcase, mini march, and also our very own Dr. Hightower will be making some comments at that time as well. So we're excited about that. Of course, we have our Mccracken plant sale is back. That's happening Saturday, May 14th in the garden, so that's exciting. And also, we are planning on hosting a typical traditional 8th grade graduation ceremony, which is exciting. It's been 3 years since we hosted something that is traditional, and it will be at Niles North High School. They are undergoing a lot of construction, so I'm a little anxious about how we're getting in and out of the building, but the students are doing it every day, so I think we'll be okay. But a lot is going on there, so we're excited about it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a whirlwind of activity, but it's exciting to see so many things back to normal. So thank you very much. Any questions? All right. Sorry, Dan. Now you're up. It's your turn. Yep.
You sure? Okay. So now's the time of year where we put together our consolidated district plan. Typically, this will happen in the spring. We did one just recently in August as we started together as a team. So our consolidated plan every year is where we put together for the state what our priorities and goals are going to be and how we're going to utilize the federal dollars for Title I, II, III, IV, and our IDEA funds. So this year, it aligns with our 3 priorities and our collective response to the 2019 equity audit, as well as our 2022 literacy review, and anything else that's outlined in our strategic plan. So that's all in the consolidated plan. You'll also see in the presentation that I shared with you on a general idea of how Title I, 2A, and 4 will be allocated. So Title I is for instruction. This we use for our interventions. As you see, that goes towards staffing. Title 2A is about professional development and retention, and you see we have portions of that money going towards our welcoming environment as well as hiring and retention. And then Title 4 is about after-school activity and after-school activities and social emotional well-being of our students. And so again, you see welcoming environment as well as instruction and acceleration for our students, and that is how we've been sort of moving along with our STEAM after-school activities, which then can support the STEAM activities that happen during the day as well.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Thanks very much, Dan. All right, moving on to item J, financial update.
Okay, so my financial update can also be seen in your packet, so I'll just kind of summarize it. In response to Mrs. Moy Wooten's request last time, I did do a little more summarizing in the beginning of it, so I hope that was helpful. I'll just go over the budgets. So fiscal year 22 budgets, that's ending this year, of our projected revenue of $26,078,540. We've collected about 86.6% of that. We are about 85% through the year right now, and so that's a really good place to be because we do tend to see a lot of collections that take place in that last quarter. One thing I will mention notably about our revenue is that we're still expecting some payments around our ESSER grants from the state. I was on the phone all morning with the state consultants. They are working really hard to fully approve all of our grants, but they have made some changes internally as they're also seeking to understand how this grant is supposed to work. And so just little things like changing a function of where we put our PPE. But again, we worked with the state directly today to make sure that all of that would be resolved as quickly as possible, and I think they're trying their best too, so we just have to be a little patient. Our expenditure budget of $28,101,123. We have expended and or encumbered, those are our salaries that we encumber, 78.9% of our amended budget, so we are right on, and we know in the last quarter we do expend a lot, so we're expect to finish right at or near our budget. So that's good news. We did have one thing to note in our expenditures, and that's that our transportation fund is getting over its budget. So right now we're currently 8% over our budget. I went ahead and looked inside of that account to see what all has been charged, and every single thing that has been charged to the transportation fund this year was approved by the board. Just some of the costs like gas have been pretty high, and then we also have some of our staff members that we charge the transportation grant as bus drivers, and some of our own buses where we've seen unexpected increases. I did speak with one of our legal firms, John Izzo, Protarka, Gleason, and oh boy, they got another name, but they've been here in the district working with your property taxes for several years. So they've also worked with the fund balances within the district in the past with, I think, Cindy Cohen, all the way back, and Ann Williams in the past. And their advice was that we do not actually need to go to amendment for this budget because we're just right there at that 110% of it, and it's late in the year. The most important thing is that all of the purchases that were in that fund were approved purchases in your budget, so there's nothing in there that we should have come to board approval for that you wouldn't expect. So with that advice, we're not going to be amending the budget this year at a second time, and I think that amendment we did earlier in the year put us in a really good place. So just moving quite along to our fund balances. Now this one's really important to talk about, and we mentioned it in our finance committee meeting, and we're going to be talking about it more in our next finance committee meeting. So if you can attend that, please feel free to. We would love to have you there. So we have a little bit of an issue with our fund balances. The rule of thumb with fund balances is that you should only collect property taxes up to your expenditures for a year, and you really shouldn't have anything more inside of your fund balance than another extra year, 12 months worth of expenditures. What we like to do is look at the last 3 years' average expenditures and then double that. And then we generally actually subtract from that our upcoming spring collection of property taxes that is to be expected. Now, there's a little issue around our property taxes for spring. I mentioned that in my last board report that we were expecting to collect that. Of course, Cook County is really behind this year, which is a little unusual. So we're actually expecting to get that collection next year. So we, even regardless of that, our fund balances are too high. And so the danger of this and the fund balances being too high is that taxpayers can actually dispute the property taxes and be refunded. Well, we're currently in court dealing with 2000, and that's where probably if you've ever met your lawyer, John Izzo, you've seen him in court for us always, right? So he is in court currently for 2011 cases. 2012 are up next. They just settled 2010. So that's how far back property disputes go. When I did an analysis of the fund balances, I noticed that there were 4 funds that were extremely high, and those are at risk of being disputed. There's a total of $11.5 million, actually it was $13.5 million that we could risk having to repay taxpayers. So at the next board meeting, we're gonna ask for a public hearing, and then after the public hearing at the board meeting, we would like to do a fund balance transfer. So we'll be moving the majority of those $13.5 million, 11.5 of that to the Ed Fund, which does not have a cap and would keep it protected for us. And then we're going to be writing a memo to the board and leaving about $2 million in the Operations and Maintenance Fund because we know we got some big time facility improvements that just because of COVID have been delayed for like the past year, but those will be coming out. So that's gonna be the recommendation to the board at our next board meeting. Our net cash, it's important to know that we originally projected with the NTDSE, did I get those in the right order? Okay, with the NTDSE payment for their beautiful facility of $1 million something. We still expected only a net deficit this year of $2,022,583, if you remember from the amended budget presentation. Good news is, thus far, we still have a surplus of $397,852. Well, we have our last quarter coming around. I do expect that we'll actually finish closer to around 1 million than 2 million in a deficit, so that's good news. I will say, and you'll probably see that in my board report, that I give a lot of credit to all of the administrative leaders, teachers, principals, everybody in this district for that, because since I've been here, I have seen everybody try their hardest to get the best products for the lowest prices, to take into consideration, what we can, how we can maximize the resources that we currently have, and everybody's hard work and clinching down on that is what led to this $1 million being not an additional deficit. Fiscal year 23 budgets, I've already had 20, 25 budget meetings with the different administrators and departments. At this time, everybody's preliminary budgets are complete. I had initial meetings with Dr. Hightower about district goals and aligning our budget decisions to, or recommendations to the board to district goals and the strategic plans. And with that being said, we plan on May 15th to open up the next year's accounting system for spending at what's called 50% preliminary budget. So that way they can't go crazy and get anyone in trouble, but we still have our money and everybody can get to moving forward. The next process for us will be to work throughout the rest of May and June to come up with our tentative budget, which we will present at the July board meeting, and then you guys know the rest of the process for that. It's in the notes. I will say that it is fiscal year end, business office year end. We have new payroll person, we have some new staff, and quite a little bit of transition this year. So the business office is working really hard to make sure that we clean a lot of our systems up. One thing we noticed about our payroll and accounting systems is that there's a lot of, I like to call junk data that has been just rolled around and rolled over years and years and years and years in the making. And so we're cleaning all of that up with the support of our township treasurer, Mr. Marty Paltzer, just to make sure everything is brand new. It's kind of like remodeling your kitchen. And last thing I'll say is that we have benefits open enrollment happening. And so one thing the business office has decided to do is we want to make sure that everybody knows that when it comes to their benefits that we're here to support you, and we are customer service focused. You're our customers, our staff, and you guys work really hard. So what we have done is come up with on May 17th and May 19th an open enrollments fair, which will take place at Mccracken Learning Center on the 17th, at Middleton on the 19th, and then next year we would rotate it and include Meyer. Got an ice cream truck coming out. Our investment providers are providing the ice cream in the truck for us. We have a CPA coming out to talk to everybody about how to fill out those W-4 forms because, well, we can't give financial advice in the district office. We know those forms are killing a lot of people this year. And some of the changes in them can be hard to understand. So we have that. We have all of our investment providers coming out, and we've also set up virtual and in-person visits bi-weekly by our different investment providers for our staff. So that's pretty much all I got today.
Thank you so much. I love that idea of the fair, and I wonder, not for this one, but for because it's around the corner, but for future ones, like adding other resources, like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau will send out people for free, and also, and I don't know if this person exists. It'd be nice if they did. Someone to help teachers and other staff like sign up for public service loan forgiveness program for your student loans, which is like an almost impossible project, and it's like a full-time job to sign up. As I've been on hold for many hours and still not figured everything out. So, just thinking about like resources we can offer, I think would be great. And yay for free ice cream.
I think we might be able to add that in this time. Yeah, if we can, we will, just because I think it's a great idea, and I think that's an easy one to find a resource for. I mean, I myself could do that session. I've done it so many times, but I will say this. I think we should also be very proactive with that suggestion and maybe send out even something to staff consistently, maybe like every few months or every quarter with here's how you do it, here's the forms, here's how you qualify, and here's the next step. So hopefully that would help as well.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Thank you. Any questions for Sam?
Thank you for the clarification. It was like amazing and easy to understand. Thank you.
All right.
Classified staff member, negotiation update.
I'm on like the wrong meeting. Sorry, I was in the finance committee meeting. So now I need to get back to our meeting. So just give me one moment, please, while I click around. I was looking at something, and now I can find the agenda for this meeting. And okay, here we are. Okay, item K, classified staff member union update. Maureen, do you want to give this update?
We're done.
I thought this was the teachers union.
It says classified, so.
Oh, sorry, I think it should be, sorry, that's my bad.
Oh, it's just a transcription error. Have we given the update, though, that we are done with it? Was that before last month's meeting?
We did that. Yeah, I know. I think I thought that was McMia, because I get them confused if it's classified or certified or not. Yeah, so, well, we already gave the update. Yay, did you ratify it? Yay! So that's very exciting. Awesome. So it's ratified. That's great news. Thank you so much, Heather. So that's great. We have a contract now for our classified staff. I hope the membership felt really good about it. I think the board feels really good about it. I think it's great that you have a union. Update on McMia is that we are still negotiating. I think it's going very well, I will say. Maureen?
Yeah, I think it's been going well. We're following interest-based bargaining practice, and I think people have been very thoughtful, and it has been a really good process so far. Hoping to wrap it up before our June board meeting. So,
fingers crossed. But yeah, really, it's been a very interesting process doing interest-based bargaining, which is a first for me. I know that the teachers union has lots of experience, but on the board side, the district side, we're all newbies, so they've been very patient with us. So thank you. It's been a good experience. All right, moving on to item L, future possible agenda items. Do we have anything? Awesome. Moving on. Committee reports. 5A, Board Equity Committee. Do you have anything to report?
I do not have anything to report.
Okay. Board Policy Committee, I will speak on Vicky's behalf. We have not met because we had our packet and we don't have a new packet. Although you did have a meeting. Do you want to report on the meeting with the Moran Center?
So we had a Zoom meeting with the Moran Center, who looks at kind of restorative practices and looking at our policy through a lens of equity. And it was an incredibly informative session. They are really open to a continued relationship, and they were honest when they didn't have an answer for a question. So it was I think it's a partnership worth continuing to keep going.
Excellent, thank you. Ed-Red, do you have anything to report?
Yes. So Ed-Red will be meeting next month, but I just wanted to give a summary of some of the key bills that the governor has just signed into becoming valid. So right now, the legislature just passed a bunch of bills around addressing teacher shortage and issues right now. So HB 4316 was passed. That was the one kind of outlier big education bill that was passed. This was an issue where this bill addressed an issue where employees were transferring from district to district and getting away with having been discharged for misconduct issues, and then those issues were not being discovered by the transfer district. So now districts are going to be required to implement procedures to fully vet employees to prevent those guilty of misconduct from transferring without being detected. So this is great. This is really exciting, and I'm sure that ISB will provide a lot of support to our district to help us to implement those procedures. HB 5472 was also passed. This bill addressed the substitute teacher shortage. With this bill, the cap on sub-service days for retired teachers was increased from 120 days to 140 days. Also, HB 4246 reduced the lapsed professional educator license fee from $500 to $50. So if there are any retired teachers or teachers that want to renew their professional educator license, take note. We need you. HB 4798 also passed, and this bill aimed to increase the pool of certified sub-teachers by allowing those who are enrolled in an educator prep program with 60 credit hours to qualify for a substitute teaching license. SB 3988 also passed, addressing the staffing shortage within the paraprofessional educator field. So this bill allowed 18-year-olds to hold an educator license with stipulations for pre-K through grade 8 until they reach the age of 19. So this just increases the pool for paraprofessionals. So if we have a need for paraprofessionals, probably working with District 219 next year would be a good idea so that we can identify graduating seniors that may be interested. SB 3907 also passed. And this bill increased the cap on how many consecutive days a sub can teach for a contracted licensed teacher from 5 days to 15. It also removes this cap altogether for individuals with a short-term sub-teaching license during a public health emergency, which is now. So any needs for subs should be eased by next year. That's it.
Thank you. And on the paraprofessional note, I think it's a great idea to reach out to 219 and also maybe Oakton and see if we can identify alumni from 73.5. And now that we also have the collective bargaining agreement, one of the aspects of the collective bargaining agreement is tuition reimbursement for education. So that could be an added incentive to, if they're interested in becoming teachers, to have some of that tuition deferred. So yeah, I think that would be a great way to outreach for next year. Thank you.
Ashley, do you know if they removed by saying that the 18-year-olds could do it, I assume that means that they removed the 30 credit hours requirement? Is that, it used to be a 30 credit hour requirement?
Good question. I am not sure. I would have to look into that. I can ask them and send you the response.
Just because that opens it up to people beyond just 18-year-olds, maybe older people who did not pursue a college degree but would be just fantastic in our classrooms, especially community members who may have moved from another country and therefore they don't qualify because they don't have that education in the United States, but still would be great in our buildings.
It might be good to, you know, like, I know we've talked about kind of promoting the jobs in our district, and we added it to the weekly, like, look for a job, look to our website, but that might be something, like, we want to send out something specifically about that to, you know, I don't know, a mailing, or the postcard for the finance committee seemed very efficient, so, yeah, so we might want to think about, like, are you looking for a job, and send it out to the 73.5 district. Okay, do you also have an NTDSE report, Ashley, or no? Okay. PTO, usually Karen comes like running in. Oh, all right. Anybody else have a PTO report? Emily, do you have a PTO report? No? Oh. I didn't know if Karen was like texting you from home, like, make sure you say this.
I could give a tiny little update for her. So one thing I will
Okay.
say is that the teachers, not the teachers, I'm sorry, Karen came out with a bunch of parents, and they came to Meyer, and they chalked for Teacher Appreciation Day, and then they did the same thing at Mccracken and at Middleton. They kind of ran a little low on some of the volunteers, as Mccracken and Middleton are a little bit bigger, and so Karen and her family came out, and they spent the entire day doing it as well. So it was really nice, and again, hopefully, you know, everybody appreciated that. So
I will also say that that the PTO organized parents to drop off goodies at all of the schools. So I just want to say a shout out to all the parents who contributed and donated, because we had those for several days. And the teachers really appreciated the variety and the generosity of our community. So thank you.
Thanks for that. Oh, the Gardening Earth Day event? That'd be great. Thank you.
Could I just jump in and say thank
I-
you to the Meyer parent leaders for the coffee cart? We were very pampered and well caffeinated on Monday.
So a few Saturdays ago, we had the opportunity to plant in the Middleton garden, and it was fantastic. There were so many little people there that were painting their little rocks. There was even like a little one, I think she was 18 months old, that was painting her own rock. It was adorable. But then we had the bigger students, our first through fifth graders, that were planting. They were planting their little singular little small plants, but we also had some pretty large ones that Ed decided to buy and drop off at the building. And so even with me setting off the alarm, we had a really great time, and Chris was a good sport when he showed up to turn it off.
Thank you for that. Finance Committee, we had our first Finance Committee meeting, which Sam referenced a couple of weeks ago. It was really great. The Finance Committee is made up of myself and Bushra and Carla, as well as a community member, Allison Lewin, and Sam, and it was just really great. I think to be able to kind of run through things, talk it out, have a more detailed conversation about items, and then, you know, some of the items are on the agenda, some are still in process. So it was really nice to have that, and I will just remind the community that it is an open meeting, that anybody's welcome to come, and the materials are on board docs. So we will continue to meet. I think our next meeting is later in May. I don't have it right in front of me. Yes, May 25th at 7 p.m. here at Mccracken. So just excited to have that committee finally up and running.
Did we establish like a rolling date for that, like the fourth Thursday or the second Tuesday or something?
It is. It's the fourth Wednesday of the month.
The fourth.
All right. Old business. We need a motion to approve policies for adoption. This is policies, the second read of the policies.
I'll make a motion to approve policies for adoption.
Seconded?
Motion made by member Jacob, seconded by member Moy Wooten.
Member Jacob?
Yes.
Member Miller?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Member Moy Wooten?
Yes.
Motion to approve policies for adoption passes. Thank you. Moving on to new business, 7A, approve the personnel report. So I need a motion to approve the personnel report.
I'll make a motion to approve the personnel report.
Seconded.
Motion made by member Nelson, seconded by member Jacob.
Member Moy Wooten,
Yes.
Member Nelson,
Yes.
Member Miller,
Yes.
Member Jacob.
Yes.
The motion to approve the personnel report passes. I need a motion to approve the Skokie School District 73.5 Consolidated District Plan for fiscal year 23 as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the Skokie School District 73.5 Consolidated District Plan for the FY23 as presented.
Seconded.
Motion made by member Moy Wooten, seconded by member Jacob. Sam, do we have any questions about this?
No, this one, technically we don't, I think, have to approve it every year. We just, if there's some changes to it, so usually we just approve it once, and then if there's changes, we go through it again. So, I think there were a couple slight changes to it, right, Dan?
We really just updated it to align with our priorities and our goals.
Great. So, call the roll?
Member Miller,
Yes.
Member Nelson,
Yes.
Member Moy Wooten,
Yes.
Member Jacob.
Yes.
The motion to approve the Skokie School District 73.5 Consolidated District Plan for fiscal year 23 as presented passes. I need a motion to approve the contract with Education Pioneers for a summer 2022 fellowship in the amount of $10,700.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Education Pioneers for a summer 2022 fellowship in the amount of $10,700.
Second.
Motion made by member Moy Wooten, seconded by member Nelson. Are there any questions about this?
Yeah, I looked over the kind of proposal. I would love if we could just get kind of like a plain language, like what, because, and I've said this before, to me, like, if it has a price tag that's over $5,000, I really need to see how it's impacting kids and impacting the children in our classrooms. So that price tag for what we seem to be getting kind of seemed off, but I think that's just that I didn't understand what we were getting. So if you could explain a little bit more, that would be great.
Yeah, so as you know, we've had a lot of extra work over the last couple years related to COVID and different transitions in and out. And so with that being said, the district really cannot afford another very high-level talented administrator right now, but we kind of need, some high-level talent. So Education Pioneers, what they do is they bring some of the most talented educational leaders throughout the entire world, not just the state or the country, but throughout the world, to different school districts to partner around strategic planning. So we've picked a fellow that is working currently with University of Chicago. One of the things he does is coordinate their new teachers. He's got a background in teaching mathematics and professional development, in grant writing, in policy, and so with all of those assets, the plan is he is actually very inexpensive. If you look at the number of hours and the cost per hour to get somebody at that high level, we wouldn't be able to do that through any other program. So we'd like to have this individual come in and work to coordinate some of our biggest strategic goals that we have, especially as they relate to finances. One of the things you'll see listed in the list in your board packet that I created was talking about the furniture purchases that we have $500,000 just kind of floating around. We can't really leave it there. We know we've got to move it forward. All of those things are now on back order or gone, and so what are the next steps? So we need some support with that. We've talked about supporting mentor teachers a little bit more. Some of the other ones that are listed on there, I think, included, what else I had on here? Acceleration, so talking about writing a grant currently that we've identified for drones, and we've kind of already engaged some of the Mccracken building leaders around what would that look like if we developed an after-school enrichment program that was partially funded by a grant for our students, and we just need some more high-level coordinating support to make those things happen. Dr. Hightower, do you want to elaborate on that? I don't know if I did an okay job with that one.
Most of that focus was on finance and making sure that we are being responsive to all of the financial decisions that have been made because of the lack of because of the system structures that we've had in place and had to really retool, we've been focusing on building out a systemic approach in the finance and the business office to make sure that our actual workings are happening and we're not having these fallouts and the fall downs as far as, is the information right in the computer, is it rolling up correctly, are our payroll right, and making sure that we had, and we were looking for an extra hand on deck to be able to do some of those systemic things that you can't do while you're also doing the regular day-to-day work.
Yeah, and exactly. And also to kind of coordinate, I would say, between the finances and the instructional side, because as I'm not, obviously, I'm the CSBO, right? I can't be everywhere at all times, but I kind of need an extra person who can help to increase that stakeholder feedback so that everybody has the opportunity to engage in some of the decisions that we're making around these purchases. So like, for instance, the furniture purchase, those things. So.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for the clarification. And even just looking, I think I had misread sort of the hours that they would be working. Reading it again and just doing the math, I mean, the hourly rate on it is pretty good. Right. I would just say, like, you know, I think whenever we bring in a consultant, there is a learning curve that they have to go through in order to catch up with our systems, and we do waste time and money on that as well. And so, to me, if there's something like this that we're doing this summer, pulling from our existing very tuned in and well-educated staff and having one of them work might be a better training ground for some of our internal candidates. And also, I mean, I understand that they can't necessarily do everything you're saying. I'm just saying that, to me, when we pull someone from the outside, they better be bringing something that we don't have internally, I guess.
I should have elaborated on this when I was reporting on the Finance Committee. So we did talk about this. This is one of the ways I thought that the Finance Committee was useful. We did talk about this proposal, and I should have shared a little bit more about our discussion. So we had a very similar discussion. Bushra pointed out that, you know, because this proposal does include a partner fee, a $3,500 vendor fee. So we talked about whether that was a good use of funds or not, paying this partner fee. And perhaps she pointed out that, you know, we have Northwestern down the road, we have a lot of different universities, perhaps we could, you know, partner with one of those universities and avoid the vendor fee. However, then Allison Lewin, our member, new member, pointed out also that, you know, she has an MBA, she also has a lot of experience in nonprofit management and education, and talked about how Education Pioneers is kind of like considered the top-notch vendor for providing interns for the summer, and so we talked about the value that it could also have just being a school that uses Education Pioneers in terms of putting us on the map as like kind of a go-to place for more full-time hires down the road for folks who are looking to become teachers, or if, you know, at some point there isn't a plan right now to hire a new administrator, but if a position opens up to kind of have this be as like, oh yes, I've done an internship there, it's a great place to be. So we talked about the value in that and felt like this was a good, so it was sort of the recommendation of the Finance Committee that this was a good one-time thing to try out and see how it went. So I should have given that kind of report as part of the Finance Committee. So I know Kelly had a question.
I guess you kind of hit on some of the things I was thinking, but I guess I want to understand what the deliverable will be at the end of this 10 weeks from the intern. But you addressed that, you know, we're kind of seeing how this is going to go this first year.
We do have some deliverables, and I did put them in the board packet, so if you get a chance. So under Welcoming Environment, we talked about the Middleton Expansion, which was something we started discussing in our Finance Committee. So you guys are probably aware that there's a lot of really specific board policies around expansions, and so in order to meet all of those stakeholder engagement things, align it with strategic planning, as Ms. Miller has pointed out a few times, needs to be done, we need some support in coordinating that. Also, one of the deliverables is the drone program, so we'd like to have the grant written, and at the end of the, you know, his internship, we'd receive the funding, which would be a lot more than is we paid out, if that makes sense. And so putting that program together and working with our administrators through me. Also, the other one is the finance. And so one thing you'll notice about this candidate's background and all of these candidates' backgrounds, is Education Pioneers is sending us financial experts. So he has a background in computational analysis and actuarials. So we don't often see those level of candidates working directly with business offices, and we think that's going to be a huge strength in providing to you guys accurate and intriguing data. If that makes sense.
I really appreciate the clarification from everyone. Thank you so much for being willing to walk us through that.
Are there any other questions? Okay. Can you call the roll, please, Alex?
Member Jacob?
Yes.
Member Miller?
Yes.
Member Moy Wooten?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
The motion to approve the contract with Education Pioneers for summer 2022 fellowship in the amount of $10,700 passes. I need a motion to approve the addition of 2 cleaning staff contracted by Pure Bright Cleaning Services for the remainder of their contract.
I'll make a motion to approve the addition of 2 cleaning staff contracted by Pure Bright Cleaning Services for the remainder of their contract.
Motion made by Member Jacob, seconded by Member Moy Wooten. Do we have any questions about this? Okay. Can you call the roll?
Member Miller?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Member Jacob?
Yes.
Member Moy Wooten?
Yes.
The motion to approve the addition of 2 cleaning staff contracted by Pure Bright Cleaning Services for the remainder of their contract passes. I need a motion to approve the resolution of education fund line item transfers as presented.
I make a motion to approve the resolution of education fund line item transferred as presented.
Seconded.
Motion made by Member Nelson, seconded by Member Jacob. Yeah. Yeah.
No,
No?
those
Oh.
will be next board meeting. So these are simply, and Angela could help on these ones to explain it a little bit. So we had some staff who left, and they were special education staff. We were unable to fill those highly needed positions, so we worked with the contracted service to bring them in, and we have contracted. So because of board policies and school codes, it's just a best practice to, if we're going to remove that amount of money from one object of salaries to the other object of purchase services, to make sure that the board's aware, so we like to do these resolutions.
Clarified. Call the roll?
Member Moy Wooten?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Member Jacob?
Yes.
Member Miller?
Yes. The motion to approve the resolution of education and fund line item transfers is presented. I need a motion to approve the amended 22-23 employment contract for Assistant Superintendent of Business and Operations, CSBO Samantha Peterson.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended 2022-2023 employment contract for Assistant Superintendent of Business and Operations / CSBO for Samantha Peterson.
Second.
Motion made by Member Jacobs, seconded by Member Nelson.
Member Miller?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Member Moy Wooten?
Yes.
Member Jacob?
Yes.
Motion to approve the amended 22-23 employment contract for Samantha Peterson passes. I need a motion to approve the amended administrator employment contract for Mccracken Principal Nancy Areola for school year 22-23.
I make a motion to approve the amended administrative employment contract for Mccracken School Principal Nancy Areola for the school year 22-23.
Motion made by Member Nelson, seconded by Member Moy Wooten.
Member Moy Wooten?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Member Jacob?
Yes.
Member Miller?
Yes. The motion to approve the amended administrator employment contract for Nancy Areola passes. I need a motion to approve the amended administrator employment contract for Middleton Principal Nikki Tamaru for school year 22-23.
I make a motion to approve the amended administrative employment contract for Middleton Principal Nikki Tamaru for school year 22-23.
Seconded.
Motion made by Member Nelson, seconded by Member Jacob.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Member Jacob?
Yes.
Member Moy Wooten?
Yes.
Member Miller?
Yes. The motion to approve the amended administrator employment contract for Nikki Tamaru for school year 22-23 passes. I need a motion to approve the amended administrator employment contract for Middleton Assistant Principal Stephanie Lorenas for school year 22-23.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended administrator employment contract for Middleton Assistant Principal Stephanie Lorenas for school year 2022-23.
Second.
Motion made by member Jacob, seconded by member Nelson.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Member Moy Wooten?
Yes.
Member Miller?
Yes.
Member Jacob?
Yes.
The motion to approve amended administrator employment contract for Stephanie Lorenas, school year 22-23 passes. I need a motion to approve the amended administrator employment contract for Meyer Principal, Dr. Helen Way, for school year 22-23.
I make a motion to approve the amended administrative employment contract for Meyer Principal, Dr. Helen Way, for school year 22-23.
Motion made by member Nelson, seconded by member Moy Wooten.
Member Jacob?
Yes.
Member Miller?
Yes.
Member Moy Wooten?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
The motion to approve an amended administrator employment contract for Meyer Principal, Dr. Helen Way, for school year 22-23 passes. I need a motion to approve the amended administrator employment contractor for Director of Student Services, Angela DeMay, for school year 22-23.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended administrator employment contract for Director of Student Services, Angela DeMay, for school year 2022-23.
Second.
Motion made by member Jacob, seconded by member Nelson.
Member Miller?
Yes.
Member Jacob?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Member Moy Wooten?
Yes.
The motion to approve amended administrator employment contract for Director of Student Services, Angela DeMay, for school year 22-23 passes. I need a motion to approve the contract for natural gas services with Symmetry Energy for the period of 24 months.
I make a motion to approve the contract for natural gas services with Symmetry Energy for the period of 24 months.
Seconded.
Any comments, questions?
I guess I could just say that, man, we got a good price. If you look at that price, that took me I've been negotiating since November. And
Good job.
the representative from Symmetry's been here a while. Well, he loves me and hates me now. He has seconded that we got an amazing deal.
And call the roll.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Member Moy Wooten?
Yes.
Member Jacob?
Yes.
Member Miller?
Yes. The motion to approve the contract for natural gas services with Symmetry Energy for the period of 24 months passes. I need a motion to approve the contract with Honeywell Building Technologies for building automation system prevention maintenance services in the amount of $19,188.48 for 3 years. Okay. Motions?
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Honeywell Building Technologies for building automation system preventative maintenance services in the amount of $19,188.48 for 3 years.
Motion made by member Jacob, seconded by member Moy Wooten. So this is $19,000, et cetera, each year for 3 years, so times 3, $60-ish thousand. Okay.
Yeah, but I would just say that this is an extremely vital purchase for us to be able to save money, because what it's going to allow us to do is proactively catch system issues that we have with our mechanical systems and to deal with those issues before they become more costly, if that makes sense.
And this was referenced in our facilities update in that first paragraph, correct?
Do you have anything to add, Ed? Okay. Any questions by the board?
Because when I first got here, this is one of the first things I recommended, and having Honeywell come out probably about 2 months ago, they found so many, the system's not communicating to Meyer. We've had issues lately, and it's not communicating with Middleton, and sometimes half the time with Mccracken. So once we could get this figured out from a software standpoint, then we could work at it on a mechanical standpoint. So they were also out this week looking at all the chillers at all the schools, and there's no communication. So we need this BAS system to communicate so everything functions properly. It's a lot of money in the next 3 years, but I think over the years it will save time and money to get things running right. So, I mean, that's, I don't know.
It's important to know that
So just for a little bit more context, this is something that was plaguing Alvin over at Meyer as far as the systems not talking to each other. when I was doing the interview process for buildings and grounds, I took them, each candidate around to the buildings, and I specifically stood in front of these machines and said, what can you tell me about them? And Ed was able to speak to me about the importance of them being able to actually talk because they're computerized, and it was driving Alvin crazy over at Meyer to try to regulate the heat and regulate the air within the building. And so we did realize that we actually didn't have a contractual service with the Honeywell. We were calling them in and out, and they were charging us money for doing work, but we didn't have a contractual service that will lock us into not having to continuously pay and pay. Where now we have a contract and we can monitor it and we can make sure that we're being fiscally responsible and that our buildings are regulated.
Is that what the last page of this document sort of communicates, that like, that there's the multi-year pricing, and then the one below it is like, if we had to call them in instead, that's the hourly rate we'd have to pay.
Exactly.
And I think that makes it very clear, like, how
Yeah.
costly it would be to call in as needed as opposed to having a contract.
Well, it's really important too to know when we're talking about a building automation system and the preventative maintenance behind it, this is similar, more similar to computer programming than it is to like mechanical repair. So a lot of people get confused because it drops formulas and they're like, why isn't this room hot? Why isn't this damper opening? And they want to go with a wrench or a screwdriver over there to make it work, but that's not how that works. And so we need an engineer. Essentially, this is a air conditioning engineer, and they're, even within these organizations, these like Honeywell, they're hard to find. So it would be a lot more expensive to call them out.
I also just think, given the past 2.5 years, it's really important. HVAC is really important, so thank you.
So they're going to install a system.
Yeah.
The BAS system exists.
They come out and they update the coding on it, and then they run reports on it, which tell us where our issues are with our mechanical system. And then Ed's team goes out and proactively makes those repairs or fix those issues once he knows like what the problems are.
Thank you, that's helpful. And so do we anticipate, so this is for 3 years, in another 3 years, are we gonna have to like redo the contract? Like, is this like an ongoing expense that we're gonna have?
Great question. Our thought is, and just correct me if I'm wrong, Ed, but I think we'd like to try to raise our internal capacity and then reevaluate it. So before we can give you a good answer on that, we'll say, not quite sure yet, just because first we need to evaluate our internal capacity to learn how to deal with it better. Once the system is not in such dire straits and it's easier to run, we probably have some more internal capacity around it and the programming of it that would maybe allow us to lessen at least this contract, if not to remove it. We said twice a month they're coming out?
They're coming out every quarterly, but when they come out, it's 3 to 4 days, the man hours. Yeah, it's very intense. So a programmer comes out, looks at the software, and we write down from there what's going on.
Half of that in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, that's super helpful. Any other questions?
And these inefficiencies are costing us money. Okay, yeah.
Okay, call the roll.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Member Moy Wooten?
Yes.
Member Miller?
Yes.
Member Jacob?
Yes.
The motion to approve the contract with, Honeywell Building Technologies for building automation system preventative maintenance services in the amount of $19,188.48 for 3 years passes. Okay. Item N, I need a motion to approve fiscal year 23 salary scale for district psychologists and nursing new hires.
I'll make a motion to approve FY23 salary scale for district psychologists and nursing new hires.
Seconded.
Motion made by member Moy Wooten, seconded by member Jacob. Call the roll.
Member Jacob?
Yes.
Member Miller?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Member Moy Wooten?
Yes.
I need a motion to approve fiscal year 23 salary scale for district psychologists and nursing new hires passes. I need a motion to approve initial collective bargaining agreement. Okay. I need a motion to approve the I was wondering why it said initial. To approve the 2021-2025 agreement between Board of Education and Skokie 73.5 PSRP Council Local 1274 IFT-AFT as ratified by the PSRP Council on May 9th, 2022.
I'll make a motion to approve 2021-2025 agreement between Board of Education and the Skokie 73.5 PSRP Council, Local 1274, IFT-AFT, as ratified by the PSRP Council on May 9th, 2022.
Second.
Motion made by Member Moy Wooten, seconded by Member Nelson. Call the roll.
Member Miller?
Yes.
Member Jacob?
Yes.
Member Nelson? Member Moy Wooten?
Yes.
Congratulations. It's official now. Yay. The motion to approve the collective bargaining agreement passes. I need a motion to approve the contract with Campus Suite in the amount of $6,358.80 for fiscal year 23. Fiscal year 23.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Campus Suite in the amount of $6,358.80 for FY23.
I make a motion.
Make a motion made by Member Moy Wooten, seconded by Member Nelson.
Okay, same question. I need to be explained to, like I'm not very bright, why $6,000 is an appropriate amount of money to convert PDF.
This is about ADA compliance.
It's
just to be
ADA
clear.
compliance.
Yeah.
So it's an ADA compliance, and we have a lot of PDFs on our website. I will say this, that while we want everything to be compliant, and we did evaluate other costs, and we felt that this was in alignment with, what we could get from anywhere. What Ruth currently is doing is working with our admin team to go through all of those PDFs on our website that don't need to be there anymore. So those won't be converted, and we won't be charged for those. So in the end, the cost will only be associated with those PDFs that are critical to the district's functioning.
So we anticipate that it would potentially be less money than that.
We're only going to do what we have to do, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Member Jacob?
Yes.
Member Miller?
Yes.
Member Nelson? Member Moy Wooten?
Yes.
The motion to approve the contract with Campus Suite in the amount of $6,358.80 passes. Sorry, I'm on the wrong page. I need a motion to approve the final 21-22 school calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve the final 2021-2022 school calendar.
Seconded?
Motion made by Member Jacobs, seconded by Member Moy Wooten. We'll call the roll.
Member Jacob?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Member Moy Wooten?
Yes.
Member Miller?
Yes. The motion to approve the final 21-22 school year calendar passes. I need a motion to approve the overnight field trips for school year 22-23.
I'll make a motion to approve the overnight field trips for school year 22-23.
Motion made by Member Jacobs, seconded by Member Moy Wooten.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Member Moy Wooten?
Yes.
Member Jacob?
Yes.
Member Miller?
Yes. The motion to approve the overnight field trips for school year 22-23 passes, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be able to take them all next year. I need a motion to approve the resolution to adopt the District 73.5 Equity Mission Statement.
Motion to approve the resolution to adopt the District 73.5 Equity Mission Statement.
Second.
Motion made by Member Moy Wooten, second by Member Nelson.
Member Miller?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Member Moy Wooten?
Yes.
Member Jacob?
Yes.
The motion to approve the resolution to adopt the District 73.5 Equity Mission Statement passes. I also made the decision to remove the formation of the School Board Governance Committee to put that on the June agenda, so we're moving that from this agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Member Jacob, seconded by Member Nelson.
Member Miller?
Yes.
Member Jacob?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Member Moy Wooten?
Yes.
The motion to pass the consent agenda, no, yes. The motion to pass the consent agenda passes. I don't know why that sounds weird in my head. Okay, now is time to make public comment. In case anybody would like to make public comment, you can go up to the podium. Please introduce yourself. No? We're good, okay. Calendar review. The next board meeting is June 14th, 2022, 7 p.m. at Mccracken. Skokie School District 73.5 retirement party is May 24th at 2:30. And the Finance Committee meeting will be Wednesday, May 25th, 2022 at 7 p.m. I need a motion to adjourn.
Graduation, May 26th. just
Graduation
reminding.
is May 26th.
7 p.m.
7 p.m. All board members are invited to attend. Please let Alex know if you plan on attending. At Niles North.
I just want to say congratulations. Thanks for the hard work, Ms. Haggerty. This was well worth it.
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Seconded.
Motion made by Member Nelson, seconded by Member Jacob. All in favor? Aye.